economic policy can broadly be looked at as sort of in three eras. So before the 1930s, economic policy tended to be very hands-off. The government really didn't get involved. Policymakers faced what is called laissez-faire economics, which is this idea that basically the market should be left to the market, the government should not get involved. And that was very much the idea that the court had in that era of the court, the second era of the court. They were deciding economic regulation. And they kept deciding on that even after FDR, President Roosevelt, started to implement a new policy on this, Keynesian economics, which is sometimes called pump priming. The idea here is the government should get involved and basically increase demand. So give people money. And this could be through things like the Works Progress Administration, which gave people jobs so they had money, or through things like Social Security, so retirees now have money to spend, right? These different programs that basically allow people to have enough money to spend it on things. And if they spend it on things, then companies will do well because they'll be earning money and the economy will be good. Now, this was initially resisted by the courts. We know the courts and the early years of the New Deal actually struck down some New Deal programming, as well as programs that were intended to actually increase workplace safety and like reduce child labor and things like that. Because we're like, the market will correct for itself. Laissez-faire economics, we don't get involved. But ultimately, for the reasons that we discussed in our unit on the courts, the court shifted its position and came around to the Keynesian economic policy that FDR and the Democratic members of the House and Senate were implementing. Now, by the 1970s, there was some resistance, some backlash to Keynesian economics in response to what people called overstimulated demand. Basically, there was this idea that people had too much money to spend, and that was causing problems. So conservatives came up with a sort of contrasting approach. The idea would be, instead of stimulate demand, stimulate supply. So this is called supply-side economics, associated with, or even sometimes called, trickle-down economics. The idea is that if businesses are encouraged to grow, often through things like tax breaks, then they will produce a better product, supply a better product, and demand will accordingly increase to want the better product. And that if demand doesn't, then prices will lower until they ultimately meet with demand, right? So the economy will still function, people will be doing well, and prices can decrease because things like tax breaks on businesses still allow business to innovate while potentially keeping prices lower because demand isn't high enough that companies can raise prices too much. That's the idea anyway.